Isn't that just the best movie? It's the best. It's my favorite.
So this is the fun part with the Q&A, but what I just wanted to say first of all is that, KK, first of all, you were so sweet to put me in touch with Elliot, and it's a pleasure to have you both here to honor both of your work today. And I mean, Austin was a little bit of a ways to fly in today, I think, Elliot. So we're really super pleased that they could actually Q&A each other today. So you've got production designer asking production designer, which we'll flip the tables after Eddington if you're staying. I really hope you are. But it's really nice to have both of you here to do this. So if you want to start, then we'll just open it up to your guys' questions in a little bit.
Okay, I'm gonna try. This is good. Where were you at in your life at that point, making this movie?
That's a pretty good question. I think I'd spent 10 years away from movies because I didn't think my movies were good enough to get good movies. I was doing these, I did the trilogy, kind of like the three. I did Blood Diner, Bloody Pom Poms, and Crack House. And I thought they were such C movies. I thought, why aren't they considering me for something better? And so I quit for 10 years and just did commercials and videos. And then did Being John Malkovich, which is how I met Spike. And that was kind of my comeback, or what I call my first movie. And then right after that, I did Michel Gondry's first movie, which was also a Charlie Kaufman script, Human Nature. And then I did this.
I mean, what an incredible comeback. Yeah. Like, what an incredible string of movies, like, to come into. It must have felt really wild at that point. Your whole life is changing, right?
It felt like, on Being John Malkovich, nobody was really paying attention to us. The company that approved the funding kind of collapsed as we began it. And so we were kind of let loose to play and make a movie however we thought we thought it should be, and we didn't really know. We were inventing it. And I'd made a movie before. I mean, I'd made the trilogy. And Lance Accord, the cinematographer who did both of these, had made Buffalo 66. So there were, we had some experience, but Spike was just winging it. And he just didn't want to make, you work with Spike, he didn't want to make a movie that looked like a movie. He just wanted to make what he'd like to see. And Charlie's such a brilliant writer that you're starting with really good material already.
I mean, incredible material, yeah. Was Charlie around the whole time?
Oh, Charlie was around a lot, yeah. Yeah, he was always around. I mean, the saddest thing was the first shot of the movie that we made, the first shot that we make is Nicholas in bed, masturbating, and reaching over for a sock. and Charlie's standing on the side, and he says, "Oh my God, what have I done to myself?"
That's a pretty incredible
way to
start a shoot.
It's so embarrassing for both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I guess the look is really, to me, it's a very kind of like iconic look to the movie. It's that sort of, it looks like you said, it doesn't really look like it's a movie in a way. It's so naturalistic, but it's also like kind of normcore and vibrant. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when you start designing stuff, you get this idea that you're just going to be able to make cool stuff. And often cool stuff is not the right thing to put in a movie because you want the background to disappear and you want to believe the characters are really where they are. And so it was kind of a big trend at the time to make things that were very banal and very grounded and like no polish, nothing cool at all. And but there were so many so many difficult things to make this movie look like it was nothing. We built a lot of stuff.
It's not easy to make it look like
No,
nothing.
it's not. It's not easy. We never went to Florida. We went to Florida to shoot a picture of the van turning off. We never took any talent anywhere, and We just did a couple shots in New York, same thing, and we never really went there, just filler shots. His house was in Reseda. The swamp was part of it was in the Warner Brothers backlot.
Yeah.
So all the plants that are there, we had to bring in, and we moved them around every day, which was kind of easy and smart. And that's where the second car wreck was.
In the jungle there, yeah.
And we salvaged the greenhouse from his backyard to put in the greenhouse for the hurricane,
Amazing.
those kind of cheats.
Yeah, so most of it was at Warner's, like all your build was there?
No. Everything was out on location
Yeah.
except for the swamp.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. And did you set out with did you guys collaborate on a color palette, or are you just figuring it out as you go when you're doing it?
No, usually I have some kind of idea about something. I never really choose colors. I just go by instinct.
Yeah.
And I would just look at references to what's a really bad hotel room.
Yeah.
And then build a hotel room.
Yeah.
And just try to make it where nothing stood out, nothing was questioned. It was like, yeah, I'll buy that. That's a hotel room. Typical,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and so you kind of had to dumb yourself down all the time. And then to the point where, okay, he's supposed to be a successful writer, Charlie is, and he's got this big house. He's done being
nothing on the walls.
Well, exactly. It's like he doesn't really have any. He hasn't gotten any taste. He doesn't have any personality yet.
Yeah.
He's very insecure, and so we kind of have him start with a futon in the living room that he uses as a couch, from his bachelor days, from his broke artist days, and then he finally moved to a bed in the bedroom, but it's still got the sleeping bag on the top.
Yeah. But it's a pretty bold way to make his house and character. It's very fun.
Very undecorated.
Yeah, it's great. And then you don't have to put any art on the walls, which is always a challenge.
I'm always suspicious of that anyway, because as soon as you put something on somebody's wall, you go okay, where did they get that? How did they decide? Did somebody give it to them? Now you're really getting into somebody's personality.
Yeah, it's got to be really
reflect,
specific. Yeah, I agree.
You can't just do it because you like it. It's got to
mean something.
Yeah.
It means a lot. Yeah. But it meant a lot to have nothing, which I love. Yeah.
You notice that.
Absolutely.
It stands out.
Yeah. Should we open it up to the audience a little
Sure.
bit?
Does anybody have any
questions?
Any questions? That light's a little bright.
No.
Does anybody have any questions?
Go ahead.
Go.
Hi, I was wondering what the most challenging set piece you've worked with over the years has been, because I know being John Malkovich, you have that really, really tiny space. I was wondering if you faced any challenges with that in regards to getting the actors in there, or just designing it as a whole so it can be filmed.
Well, I don't know. I try to avoid set pieces because it seems like they're it's like something Donald Kaufman would think up. It's like the swamp at the end. That's Donald's invention.
Sourcing locations
Well, rather than an action place for something portentous to happen, that you're expecting, it's going to be boring here, so we better build a big set piece for them to fight, But the being John Malkovich connection is funny because Charlie was supposed to be a successful writer, and we visit the set of the Being John Malkovich set in the movie. But in reality, in the real Being John Malkovich film, it was all shot on a building downtown on location, and we just lowered the ceiling down to the top of the windows, and then put a bunch of different doorways in. And so we had to build it for the first time for this.
That's amazing.
To make it look like it was fake.
That's the best.
And it was very weird, eerie, going back to that set.
How many years later was it?
Oh,
Like 2 or 3 years?
7.
6? Okay, yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, maybe not that long.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this to you. Yes, here we go. I'm going to hand it over.
I'm ducking down under the light so I can see.
Yeah.
Hi. I wanted to know everything about the orchid. Is it real? Is it fake? Where does it come from? Were you trying to fool the experts? Were you just trying to fool people who don't know anything about orchids? Tell me about the
It's
flower.
very real. It was a real orchid. In fact, you know how U-Haul trucks have big graphics on the side of them that show something from the state that they're from? The Florida U-Haul truck has a ghost orchid on the side of it. And the orchids in the film were made, and they're in my garage. I just found a box full of them the other day. And it was really hard to make them. Finally, they figured out this kind of like really thin foam kind of paper that they use like in a box when you get a piece of a stereo or a DVD player or something. Anyway, you compress that into a mold, and it looks like the leaves on the orchid. But it's a real orchid. It's a real story, except for the drugs. That's a Donald invention. I've got a better question for the audience. When do you think the movie became Donald's movie? Because I always go back and forth. Anybody have any guesses?
I have a guess. You go ahead, yeah.
I feel like the movie kind of flip-flops between when you have Meryl Streep's character and you have Nicolas Cage's character. I feel like there's a kind of separation between the two in the way that they're shot and the things that happen with them. I feel like it's two movies in one almost. If that makes any sense.
It kind of is, because Donald doesn't really exist. Charlie doesn't really have a brother named Donald.
Yeah.
And so you're probably right, but I feel like Charlie's trying to be true to himself, and it's really his story of searching and making himself ill, trying to figure out how to solve this thing, until it's either at Robert McKee's story session, or I think it's when Donald comes to New York and he sings Happy Together.
That's what I thought when he comes to New York, when he invites him in. you
Right,
know.
because
Yeah.
then all of a sudden the music changes, it becomes a suspense chase. It's fully Donald's movie by then. So before it did go back and forth, and you never knew who to trust. And the story with the drugs, that's obviously a Donald invention and things like that. But that's part of the fun of it.
And we'll see. It's an interesting pairing in a way with Eddington. We'll see when we watch it. But like,
There's a parallel.
yeah, there's an
Yeah.
interesting parallel.
Yeah.
A lot, actually. That's cool.
Fun. Who else? Behind you.
This is a quick one. In the hotel, there's like a picture of Michelle Pfeiffer on the wall. Is that like who they were thinking to play Susan or something?
No, I didn't notice that, and
I'd never noticed it before today.
yeah.
I was just like, what
Are
was
you
that?
sure it's Michelle Pfeiffer?
I think so. It's like a news clipping
Oh.
on the wall. I don't know.
Huh. No, there's no connection there. There's all kinds of funny hidden things everywhere, but that one wasn't intentional that I know of.
Okay, so while I'm heading over here, I'm just going to ask, did you hide anything else intentionally in there? Or what
Well-
was your favorite thing to hide in there?
I don't know. I mean, it's like it was fun watching. I only came in during half of it, but it was fun watching it again because I'd forgotten so many things. Mainly the things that I forgot were the problems, like when she's having the dinner party and she goes into the bathroom. That was a set. And we built that set 7 times because we kept thinking, oh, we'll have time for it at the end of the day. And we'd just, we'd build it and it'd be sitting there in a parking lot, or it was in somebody's front yard, or we kept moving it around and moving it around and moving it around. Finally, at the end of the thing, it says, we better shoot that. We got to get that shot of when she's reflecting and kind of like thinking that she's giving up on her marriage and going to go to Florida, Just little things like that, just little Little production designer pain in the ass things.
Yeah, that is a pain in the ass. How much prep time did you have on it? Do you remember?
No, it felt like about 3 months of prep. But I was really close to Spike, and so he'd just call me up and say, okay, we got this, and we got this, and we got this, and we got this, and what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And just always bouncing things back and forth, trying to figure it out, because I never really go into a film knowing what I want to do. Just kind of discover it on the way with whoever I'm making it with. And that was definitely the case on this. I didn't know if it was going to get more absurd than it did. The car crashes were kind of the craziest. Talk about set pieces. The car crashes were kind of the craziest thing in the film. And we had a friends and family screening where everybody that worked on the film could come and they could bring friends and get a reaction, but it was finished. It wasn't like we were screening it to get notes. And we had to stop the film after the thing because somebody had a heart attack.
Oh my God.
And it was like, is there a doctor in the house? It was that kind of thing.
Wow.
And then it was just a panic attack. It was after the first crash in the street, in the driveway. And
That's when you know it works.
reality,
I guess, you know?
yeah. So I guess you could call that a set piece. But
Yeah.
You mentioned that you specifically didn't want to put a lot of things on the walls for Charlie's character. How do you approach character from a pre-production design process?
Well, everything's got to come from character, because you're really you're giving them credence. You're giving them they're playing something fake, and we're all making something that's fake. And the objective is for the audience to believe that it's real, at least for a couple hours, or believe that they're in that world with these people that they believe is real for 2 hours, whether it's a fantasy or reality. And so I always ask the director a bunch of questions, and if the writer's around, I ask them too. I say, well, how much money do they have? Where would they live? What do they have people come over to the house? Do they? Why don't we ever see the mother? All these different questions to drill down on what this character would be, and so that we don't put anything in their space. And this is for any character in any movie that takes you out of the movie. I will say there were 2 things that we shot for this movie that would have been set pieces. I keep going back to your question. They were fantasy sequences, and we came back and did reshoots to shoot them. And one was a wrestling match between Darwin and somebody else, and it was really fun. These 2 old men going at it on the floor. And then the other one was Charlie writing, and his room becomes a swamp and fills up with water and starts growing mold and vines and things like that. And I'm not sure I executed it very well, but luckily, I have pictures of it though, but luckily it was thrown out because it was too big of a leap, and it was kind of giving up the hand of like imagination, where if you kept everything real all along, then when it gets absurd, you don't know where it crossed, like we were talking about. When did it change? Did it ever change, or was it always a lie? So, did that answer your question, hopefully?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, if I could ask another one.
Sure.
Okay, what films or like shows or media influenced you when you were making this film? Because I can tell by the very naturalistic look of it, it kind of seemed almost like Altman-ish. So I'm just curious to know who have been or what films have been your inspiration in your production design career.
Well, it's 2 different angles to a question. It's like I have lots and lots of influences, but I never have an influence for a particular film. Like I'm not looking to take images from a film into another film, or from paintings or something like that. What about yourself?
I try to avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In a way,
You
because
really
you're
wanna
trying to
make it
make
your
something
own.
new, and it's so It's easy to be so referential if you're like tied to these old, wonderful old things. You're not going to make something new.
Besides, they did it. Whoever did it, that made the film that you admire, they did it very, very well. And you don't want it to look like that. And like Spike says, he didn't want to make a movie that looked like a movie. And that wasn't trying to say, oh, I want to make a film. It just means don't get into the tropes that movies have. Even Charlie makes fun of it when he's talking to Donald about Donald wanted incorporating all these tropes. And so I like to think I'm a pretty good student. I never went to film school, but a pretty good student of films, just because I've always liked them. And I like all different kinds of films. Except Hollywood films. I'm not so crazy about Hollywood films.
But all those films and all the language of it's sort of in your head already in some way. You don't need to really pull it close to you.
Yeah, and I think that as production designers, I think we one of our big traits is being observant of the world in general, and just noticing how things go together or why they sit next to each other in real life, and it's pretty absurd. And they go, "Could I use that on a set?" Nah, nobody would believe that. They'd think it's fake. And so it's always walking a line between what's correct for the film and what might be a little push to excite the audience, but without being selfishly, building something for yourself. I could list films and films and films and films that I love, but I promise when I start to make a film, I quit watching films and pull my references from real life. Just go out and take
real life,
pictures.
Me
and-
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Real life is the best inspiration.
I did a film in New York, my first film in New York, and at the time there was a big coffee table book that came out about filming in New York, all the landmarks. And I got the book and I gave it to the location manager and said, we can't go to any of these places. They're used up. This is taboo. Have to find me places that nobody's ever wanted to shoot in New York. And we did.
How do you work with the location department? I always feel like it's something I don't know how other people work really. For me, it's such a huge I feel like I'm part of the location department.
Oh, definitely. I mean, this is the funny thing about production designers is we all kind of made up how we do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And even I've talked a lot at schools and seen how they're taught now, and I know that once they hit the real world, it's going to be all upside down.
Yeah.
It's going to be different.
Yeah.
So locations are the first things that we have to figure out, because if we can't find something that's in the script, then we know we have to make it, and we have to figure out how it's going to, affect the budget and the logistics. So I try to put myself in competition with them.
Yeah, I know.
I try to go out and find the things myself.
Yeah.
Or try to know the area better than they know it. And when you're going to a place you've never been before, it's much trickier. Like if I'm in another country, then of course they're going to know more than I am. But I'm going to have fresh eyes, and they're going to give me all the places that everybody else wants to go to. They're always going to give me the low-hanging fruit first.
Yeah, I hate the feeling of being handled.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I know you're going to want this.
Yeah.
And that's easy, and we know we can shoot there because it's easy for production. I go like, nope.
Yeah.
Just like you kind of act like an ornery kid.
Yeah.
Until you show them a couple discoveries and they get on board. But it's
and I like to drive around with the location manager a lot.
Always.
Because then they start to really understand.
Yeah.
Just how weird you are.
Yeah. And then on the last, not the last film I did, but a couple films ago, I found out the DP is playing the same game, and he wants to find the locations. He was kind of furious that I was already looking for locations before he came on. And we'd go look at a location. This was another film in New York. And he'd say, I'm going to walk back. And he'd walk like 50, 60 blocks looking for places at night that would work for him and for us.
I love when I'm able to like drive around with the DP all the time too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
On
the best
Bones
thing.
and All, I think we spent months, just the DP and I driving around. You
Yeah.
know? It's really great.
Because you're also making up what the film's going to be. You're discovering things and go like, what if we put that in our film? You know?
Yeah.
And you're going through different light changes and different weather systems, and you're saying like, maybe this should have this, and maybe this should have this. So you really make it up as you go, and you just have to be open and attuned. And as far as location scouts go, you just have to feed them a lot. If they come back with the wrong thing, I always feel like I didn't give them enough information of what I'm looking for and what I'm not looking for. I always, put it on myself to be the one that's at fault by not communicating enough what I'm asking somebody else to do, because they can't read my mind. Just like we can't read directors' minds, even though they think we can.
And that way you get better at it because you're always improving your communication skills.
Yeah.
It's a good perspective to have.
Yeah.
And what about directors? Like, I feel like one of the trickiest parts of the job is like getting the director's trust and synchronizing with. It's like it's the biggest currency in a way there is to a movie. I mean, you and Spike, that was you. By then, you had already done Being John Malkovich, so you guys really had gelled. But did it start off that way, or?
It kind of, well, we did a couple of commercials first and some music videos. It started out that way of just me and him going out and trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah.
And we knew each other by just hanging around a little bit. So it wasn't like I had to gain his trust as much as we just had to get in sync.
Yeah.
It worked really well, and even to the point at Her where we both were on a different tangent, but we were on a different tangent together thinking that we were making a science fiction film, and then in the end we decided we're just making a film about what we like in the world that exists now. And so we just said, well, let's just use what we like. Let's only show what things that we like. Let's not show anything else.
Yeah.
So it stripped it down. But other directors some directors don't have a good visual language. Some of them don't notice things. Some of them visual things. Some of them don't know how to communicate what they do like. And if they're not very forthcoming verbally about it or giving you examples, it's a very tricky dance. Like, even if they give you an example, that doesn't mean it's literally exactly that.
Yeah.
Or you hope it's not.
Yeah.
Otherwise you expect them to give you a literal example every time. But it's a back and forth, and it's a kind of a game where you're like, oh, you got one of those? Well, what about two of these? And you show them some other options, And you keep going back and forth. And if they ever think that you're showing them something because it's cheaper to appease the producer, then they'll never trust you again.
That's right. Yeah.
So you work for the director. You can have your ear open and be responsible for the production side of it, but you work for the director. And if you start working for the producer more than the director, then the director won't trust you.
It's a tricky dance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you can be in battle with producers that way too the whole time, but you
Yeah.
kind of have to get along. For me, you kind of have to get along with everybody, but you're there for the director. Yeah.
You do have to appease everybody, and you got to wear all those different hats. You got to know what it's going to cost, what you're suggesting that they should do, and you got to know how to solve that problem.
Yeah.
But you still want to believe in it. Like, sometimes a director will have an idea that I think it's terrible. I'll either think it's tacky, or it doesn't belong in the film, or they saw it somewhere and they think it's the best thing ever, and I'll go like, oh God, I really can't do that. We can't put that in. But I used to just say like, no, that's a terrible idea. That's so tacky. And then I lost trust with them.
Yeah.
And they'd never trust me again. So now instead I learned to do a more subtle dance where you go like, yeah, but what about this? And I show them 2 or 3 other things that I like that are better, and I know that we can pull off. And one of them will have to be something they never thought they could afford. And they go like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that, but I didn't think we could afford that. And go like, yeah, we can do that. And so you sway them to something else that's better than the idea that, but still in the line of thinking that they brought to you, but you just kind of up it and polish it and deliver it back, and then it's their idea again.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's kind of more of a two-part question, but and it speaks more to your process. Do you have a particular process that you utilize on every project? Is it different with every project? And I think the main question I want to ask you is, was there anything in particular for this movie that you kind of, was it a concept or something that you kept with you and your team the whole time to keep you kind of genuine to the story?
Well, like I say, usually there's some kind of silly mantra that you have of every film, like on Where the Wild Things Are, it was about depth, about seeing just like forever, because I felt like I'd been making films that were kind of like against the wall, and I didn't want to get lost in the forest, so I wanted to burn down the forest and see beyond it. And in Her, there were so many rules that we made up, that I made up, like no graphics, no sports clothes, and there has to be red in every frame, and just all these fun games that you play with yourself. And on this one, it just had to be regular. It really just had to be banal, you know? It had to be very, because the character was it was a heroic character that was fascinated by so many things and did deep dives into so many things, but he didn't ever look at himself. He didn't think about himself. His mind was just obsessive in jumping from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. And so to do that, you have to take somebody like that you just pluck off the street and not think about, and give him the credit for being this person that's deeply involved in flowers or in tropical fish. Fuck fish. I'm done with fish. There's so many good quotable lines in this movie. So it just had to be something that was just it was just like unquestioned banality, like nothing special.
But that comes essentially from the characters and from the script originally. Like, so you sort of establish the rules around what the movie dictates.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
And then you start to get, a decision-making process reveals itself because of what the movie needs.
Yeah. And just knowing that the movie was going to go off the rails, I think an original draft had like a swamp thing come out and attack them instead of an alligator, which the alligator's much more grounded.
Yeah.
But it was really supposed to go like, bonkers. And so you have to keep it normal, even to the end where it's starting to go bonkers and like, wait a minute, the guns, And I like to say that I really haven't made any movies with guns, except for there's like 3 gunshots in my movies. Like one when they drop a gun in the closet in Being John Malkovich, and there's one here where she kills herself, but it's absurd, and then she fires and hits Donald in the shoulder, but it's in the fantasy movie.
Yeah.
It's not like they're using the gun to change the balance of power within the story, which I think is a cheap device. Maybe Robert McKee would disagree with me, but
We'll see in Eddington. Yeah.
yeah. Films? 2 films.
Days of Heaven.
We could play back and forth. Touch of Evil.
McCabe and Mrs. Miller.
Yeah.
What
Red Desert.
Yeah, that's a great one.
And some of these you won't think of as production design like you'd think of a Marvel movie as production design, but they're very consistent production design.
The original Suspiria.
Yeah, the original Suspiria. Yeah.
Possession, which is playing here at the theater, incredible production design.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good revival film.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could you go deeper into the chronology of the production design on this film and how it compares to, say, how the film is actually
Chronologically.
Yes, chronologically. Thank you for correcting me. How actually chronologically goes, and how the difference in how it was shot and designed on a production standpoint, how that was decided.
Yeah. Okay. From a production standpoint, for you who have been in production, understand it. So we talked about looking for locations. There's a bunch of tiny sets in this film that you wouldn't want to have to move a whole film company to get them. You know, they're like, it's a half a day here, or it's a quarter of a day, or a third of a day. And so at the beginning of the film, we decided to make a whole stage full of small sets. And they were all over, sprinkled throughout the productions, or the film's chronological order. The elevator, where he goes up to meet her and then doesn't talk to her. The hotel room, the hallway with the binoculars. These are all tiny sets that we built to knock them off, all within one day. And then we moved on to his, and then we went on the road. So we tried to get all of this stuff done that we could before we, what I call, moved the circus, before we got in trucks and did all the location work. It is also cheaper because you haven't had to hire all those trucks yet. And so we were on stage for a week shooting gobs and gobs of tiny sets. I don't know why we didn't do the bathroom there then, because we thought we were going to find it. And then we went on location to, I think, to his house in Reseda. It was also depending on what was ready. And then the nursery was after the house in Reseda. And then the swamp. The swamp was actually two places. One was Warner Brothers, and another one was in Antelope Valley. It was at the back end of a pond because it had a road that they could park on and then go into the beginning of the swamp. But then most of it was at Warner Brothers. And then, I don't know, the rest is kind of dictated by whether we need day or night and, turnarounds and things like that. But it was, Spike likes to shoot in order, as most directors do, and actors do, because it's easier to keep in character, know where you are. I know that one of the last things we shot were the time-lapse flowers at the end on the street near Sunset in Vermont. And those are real flowers that they were in my living room for 5 weeks watching them, blossom and go down to get the timing. And then finally we said, okay, and then we put them on a stand out there in the middle of the street and got traffic cones and permission and all that kind of stuff. And so that was at the end of the film. It's the end of the film. Did that help to answer your question?
Yeah, that's a very good answer. I guess also alongside that, how set was the script during that process?
Extremely set.
Okay.
Charlie's scripts are very tight and buttoned up. Everything pays off later. Everything, works very well. Although Spike will edit for a year and we'll go back and shoot more stuff. In this case, we shot the flooded bedroom dream, which we then decided we didn't need, and some other little interstitial things, because the script can be moved around in the edit, but it'll be shot without alteration during the shooting.
Okay.
And Chris Cooper did win an Oscar for his role, so
He's so great.
I mean, we've seen him in so many things, but he usually plays like an FBI guy, or
Yeah.
you know, that he rarely gets to play something like this anymore.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And Meryl Streep's daughter talked her into this. He said, "No, who's this Spike Jonze guy? Seems like he's just done one film." He goes, "No, Mom, you should do it. You should do it." Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. Should we wrap it up for now? Or do you have any more questions?
Let's watch Eddington.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. You want to take a quick break? I think 5:30. How close are we? 5 o'clock? Okay.
I did have one question.
Yeah.
Here.
5 o'clock.
The sequences with the thanks. The sequences with the insects pollinating the flowers, was that something you shot or pulled from existing footage from a documentary or something?
That's a good question. There was a film that had come out just before we did this, called Microcosmos, an amazing nature film, where it's about being with the bee, with the dung beetle, with everything. That movie, it's like mesmerizing. And we wanted to imitate it. The flowers are fake. The bees are fake. They're CG. It was an early use of, completely realized CG. I'm glad it was so seamless. But we flew with the camera as if we were the bee, and then we built the bee in between.
I see.
And we shot that at the end of the film as well. Yeah.
Oh, I did also want to add, the sequence with Darwin fighting someone, I'm pretty sure at least one frame of it was used somewhere in the dream sequence.
I think there is him tussling in there for a second, yeah. But you don't see the other character.
Yeah, I always wondered who it was.
Yeah. I won't tell. Well, there's another section that I kept looking for, and maybe it was in, but I didn't watch the whole film again, but I'm in the film just very briefly. There was a scene about an orchid hunter, and they mentioned that he gets dysentery and all this kind of stuff. And that was another reshoot scene where on that day I was animal wrangler, makeup, wardrobe, actor, special effects. It was just like 3 of us went out with a camera and just shot this.
Fun, yeah.
We shot this at the Arboretum. And at the end of the day, there was a snake, this animal handler called Jules, real character. They had this snake, and the sun's going down, and we're standing in the water, and he said, "Just go over there about 50 feet, and when the snake comes to you, just pick it up." And so, I mean, I wasn't unfamiliar with snakes, but still, this is like a pretty big python. But it's yellow, so you can see it easy, and I just went out there and just like picked it up, and it wrapped around me, and I gave it back to him. One other anecdote about the swamp. The swamp was, when they first go into the swamp with the Indians and they're cutting the stuff down, the swamp wasn't that deep. When you walked around in the pond, it was about this deep, and it should be like a swamp and should be muddy. And we felt like it didn't look like it was dangerous enough or enough turmoil, so we said, "Can you guys walk on your knees?" And so they're doing this, so it looks like they're trudging through mud. And they've got knee pads on, and they're just really on concrete.
That's great.
And Meryl Streep, too.
Well, no, she didn't have to do that because that was later in the film. Just that early part, yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, you guys. I think we're going to take a half-hour break or so. We'll start up at 5:30. Hopefully you're all coming back to see Eddington.
Now I get to trip you up with some questions.